once again, I feel the need to do another video today. And the reason is because over the course of nearly 500 videos that I have uploaded here, I have not very many times explained what the meaning of the word saints is. I've always pointed out that the saints mean the Jews, and it does. But I feel the need to make sure that everyone understands where I get that from in the scripture. Let's first go to either a verse or a couple of verses in Revelation. Revelation 17 and verse 6. And this video is also to prove that the word saints actually does not belong to the church. The man at the Vatican cannot make somebody a saint. In fact, there is a question as to whether even a Gentile believer is a saint. I will explain. With this particular scripture, let's start with it. Revelation 17 and verse 6. And I saw the woman was drunk with the blood of the saints. Okay? Right? And she was also drunk with the blood of those who had the testimony of Yeshua Messiah. That's two different groups of people. Well, we know those who have the testimony of Yeshua Messiah. First of all, they don't use the name Jesus or Jesus. And they don't murder people. The murderers were, as it were, that woman that was drunk with the blood of the saints, and also drunk with the blood of those at the testimony of Yeshua Messiah. Now, let us go to Daniel 7. Let us find out who the saints are. The word saint just means Kaddish. It is a Hebrew word for the holy people, the Israelites. Okay? Now, we understand that the fourth kingdom that's written about in Daniel 2 and Daniel 7 is Roman Europe, the kingdom of iron. The Iron Age people are the Roman Europeans. The Bronze Age people of the brass are the Greeks. You can go and look it up. It's not hard to understand. Okay? So, the Iron Age came after the Bronze Age. You cannot say that this man is Antiochus. He is after the order of Antiochus, but he is not Antiochus, because Antiochus was of the bronze, the brass. One of the four kingdoms. He was of the Seleucid Empire, of the Seleucid portion of the Grecian Empire. Okay? All right. So, verse 23, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon the earth, which shall be different from all the other kingdoms, and shall eat, devour, destroy the whole land, and shall tread it down and break into pieces, to shatter it into pieces. This is Rome the destroyer. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall arise after them. So the Caesars began the beast of iron. Then after the Caesars, 10 kingdoms develop in Europe. I have mentioned them by name individually. I can almost do it now. Let me try. The Lombardies, otherwise known as Langobards, the Alemanni, which are the Germans, the Franks, which are the French, I can't remember. There was Visigoths and Ostrogoths. One of them was overrun, was destroyed by the man at the Vatican, as were the Heruli, and the Vandals were uprooted by the man at the Vatican, you see. And of course, the British monarchy, the 10th kingdom, Sueve was one of them. That's out of Spain, Portugal. I'm trying to remember all of them, but pardon me that my ability to remember is not so good. But the man at the Vatican came after the 10 kingdoms. And he shall subdue 3 kings. Who were they? The Heruli, the Vandals, and it was either Ostrogoths or the Visigoths. I can't remember. The ones that lived in Italy at the time. What it wasn't called Italy so much, but in that general area. Okay. So we know it was the man at the Vatican that he is talking about. Go look up everything that I've just mentioned, and you can prove it on Google. It's not hard to do. Okay. And he shall be different from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. And he shall speak words against the highest. Yes, he calls himself Father. When Yeshua Messiah, who is not to be confused with Jesus Christ, whom Yeshua Messiah said, call no man your father, for you only have one Father in heaven. Disobedient man at the Vatican insists on calling himself Father, speaking against the Most High. Okay? And what will he do? He shall wear out the saints of the Most High and think to change times and laws. Who was it who did that? Who was it to think to change the times and the laws? It was Gregory the 13th. It was him. In fact, all of Europe, all of the United States are using his calendar. That's right. And it was Gregory, I believe it was the 13th, Gregory the 13th, that had as his coat of arms the great red dragon. Yes. And it says, and they shall be given into his hand a time and times and a dividing of a time. Well, that was Titus, the Roman general who became Caesar. You could say it was Nero Caesar. How then can I sit here and say it was Gregory the 13th and now I say it's Caesar? Because it is the same thing. The man who sits on Caesar's seat. Vaticanus means You can look it up. The imperial seat of the Caesars. So when he is talking about this person is multiple people who sit on the same seat. Times, and dividing of it time. That happened with Nero sending Vespasian, who in turn sends Titus to destroy Jerusalem. And that's what happened. It happened already. It is not going to happen anymore, because the time has come. Time has come. And all you have to do is look at June 7, 1967. It is time has come for Jerusalem to rise. And what we just happened in the middle of May this year, the time has come for Jerusalem to rise. It's not going to fall again. Okay. So we see wear out the saints of the Most High, and though they will be given into his hand for a time, times half a time. Well, they were. Who then were the saints? They were the Jews. Even if it was a crooked generation, they are still the holy people. So, when you read Revelation 20, or is it, when you read Revelation 17, now think about this for a minute. Who was it that crucified the apostles? You will say it was the Jews, but in all truth, it was the Romans. And I will tell you that if anyone used the word Yeshua instead of what the Romans, the name of the Romans had for the Messiah, they were treated like the Jews and murdered just like the Jews. Any nonconformist, any group who did not conform, were murdered and exiled. And thanks to a person that I have conferred with in Switzerland, where many of my kin were driven to, even Switzerland, when Jacob Ammon and the other Anabaptists that came with him to the United States, it has been reported that any who were nonconformists, anyone who did not go along with the religion of Switzerland, were forced to go with the Anabaptists on the, and many others went. It wasn't just the Anabaptists. I believe it was the Charming Polly, the Charming Nancy, and there was another. There was a few more ships. Back in the early 1700s. And these people who went along with the Anabaptists, many of them were Jews. Because the Jews did not conform to the Swiss religion. And this is the reason why there are so many Jews and so much Jewish blood among the Amish. Why? These Jews came with the Amish because they knew that the Amish would not murder them. You see, the Amish, they were pacifists. They did not believe in killing anybody. Not even if that person was attempting to murder his own, the Amishman's family would not lift a weapon against any man. So the Jews went with the Amish because the Amish they were trustworthy. They would not kill these people. Now I want to mention something else. The Amish, they're not perfect by any means, okay? Their religion. But they don't carry the mark of the beast. They don't worship that graven image, the image of the beast, in their congregations. And it is even debatable whether they have the name of the beast. Jesus. My dad, a few years ago, told me they say Yesu or something like that. Now, how do you know whether that's talking about Yeshua or a false deity? Well, I'll let the Messiah and our Father in heaven decide that. Since I don't know, since it's not obvious. But they don't commit murder. And so you see, folks, the reason why the Amish were slaughtered like the Jews were is because they were not thorns and briars. By their fruits you shall know them. Look, let me show you something. Now, I don't want to get off the track here. Matthew 7. Matthew 7 and verse 16. Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves. What do wolves do? They kill and eat the sheep. This is what the priests and the preachers in Europe did. They murdered and ate the sheep. Verse 16 says, you shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns or figs of thistles? Even a good tree brings forth good fruit. Well, one thing that the Amish had was long-suffering. That's good fruit. An evil tree does not produce long-suffering. A corrupt tree can only produce evil fruit. That's the reason why European Christianity is guilty of millions, perhaps billions of murders, because they cannot produce good fruit. It is impossible. The hatred and bitterness is within them from the time that they are born until they're dead. And he goes on and on. He says, even so, a good tree brings forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree brings forth evil fruit. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. So what did the European Christians do? They pillaged, raped, and murdered. The Jews did not do that. Neither did the Amish. In fact, I would venture to say that like the Jews, the Amish in medieval Europe produced good fruit. Now, Listen to what it says here in verse 19. Every tree that brings not forth good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. Therefore, by their fruits you shall know them. Now, folks, when the Amish came to the United States on those ships, the nonconformists, including the Jews, in Switzerland, were forced to come along. Where did these Jews go to live? Out of fear of the Christians, they went and lived among the Amish, and many of them became Amish. I have documented proof of even orphans, Jewish orphans, in my mother's own Jacob Byler and Nancy Kaufman genealogy book. I can't remember. As soon as I get it in my hands, I will let you know which family this one particular Jewish boy who came on the ship joined up with. He was an orphan. His parents murdered by these evil European Christians. The saints of the Most High are the Jews. The gifts and calling of Jehovah cannot be changed. Look, let's go to Romans 11. He's speaking to the Romans after he explained to the Romans that all Israel shall be saved. He says in verse 28, as concerning the gospel, they, the Jews, are enemies for your sakes, but concerning the election, they are the beloved for the patriarchs' sakes, meaning Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob's sakes. Verse 29, for the gifts and calling of Jehovah cannot be changed. Therefore, in Daniel 7, where it calls the Jews, where this meant at the Caesar's seat, at Caesar's palace, wore out the saints for 3.5 years by besieging Jerusalem. Those saints are the Jews of Jerusalem. And the gifts and the calling, including the name saints, cannot be changed. It stays with the Jews forever. The followers of Yeshua are the followers of Yeshua. They are not the saints. But they can come into the kingdom along with the saints. You see. And this is how, folks, if you don't get your definitions right, these ravening wolves who call themselves preacher will muddy the waters for you, just like they have done with billions of people, and even convince you that Yeshua, Israel's Messiah, is the Antichrist. This is what they will do. They have told you that they are planning on doing this. They are planning, as soon as Messiah comes, they're going to call him the Antichrist. That's what they say. It's not something that I came up with. It comes out of their own mouth. So, I hope this explains that the saints are the Jews. Every time the word saints, go look it up in your Strong's Concordance and look up the word saints. Every time you see the word saints, it means the Jews. Period.